The once bustling Boeing assembly hangars in Everett, Washington now echo with uncertainty. Boeing, a symbol of American industry, faces not just internal crises but a powerful external force: China. Once Boeing's greatest opportunity, China is now its fiercest competitor. The era of easy access and massive Chinese orders is over, replaced by fierce rivalry and geopolitics. Boeing's fortunes in China are a barometer of a larger global realignment. For decades, Boeing fueled China's growth, and China sustained American jobs. Now, that relationship is unraveling. Chinese airlines are turning to Airbus and their own rising champion, COMAC. The US and China are decoupling in aviation, with China determined to become a leader, not just a customer. The shockwaves are felt far beyond Seattle, signaling a new era for global industry. Boeing's story in China began in 1972, following President Nixon's historic visit that marked a turning point in US-China relations. This diplomatic breakthrough opened the door for American businesses, and Boeing was among the first to seize the opportunity. That same year, Boeing delivered its first jets to the Civil Aviation Administration of China, or CAAC, marking the start of a new era in Chinese aviation. These early deliveries were more than just business transactions. They were symbols of trust and cooperation between two nations that had been separated for decades. This was more than a sale. It was a strategic opening to a vast new market, one with enormous potential for growth. Boeing's entry into China was a calculated move, positioning the company at the forefront of a rapidly expanding industry. As China began to modernize its economy and infrastructure, Boeing became an essential partner. The company didn't just supply aircraft, it provided technical expertise, training for Chinese aviation staff, and support for building a safe and reliable air travel system. Boeing's engineers worked side by side with their Chinese counterparts, helping to lay the foundation for the country's aviation future. By the 2000s, Boeing jets had become a common sight in Chinese skies, connecting cities and people across the vast nation. This partnership also supported thousands of jobs back in the United States, as American workers built the planes destined for China's growing airlines. At its peak, 1 in every 4 Boeing jets produced was destined for China, making it the company's most important international market. The scale of this relationship was unprecedented, with billions of dollars in trade flowing between the two countries. Boeing deepened its ties even further by sourcing critical parts from Chinese suppliers, integrating China into its global supply chain and fostering local expertise. In 2018, Boeing took another major step by opening a 737 completion center in Zhoushan, the first of its kind outside the United States. Here, Chinese workers assembled and finished jets for delivery to local airlines, further cementing the partnership. The opening of this facility symbolized decades of collaboration, mutual benefit, and shared ambition between Boeing and China. But just as Boeing seemed to have secured its place in China's aviation future, the relationship began to show signs of strain. Political tensions and shifting market dynamics started to cast a shadow over the once thriving partnership. The high point of Boeing's journey in China quickly became the edge of a steep decline, as new challenges emerged and the future of this critical relationship was thrown into uncertainty. While Boeing sold planes, China was learning and planning. With Made in China 2025, Beijing targeted aerospace for self-sufficiency and global leadership. China invested billions in R&D and launched COMAC to build its own jets. By 2019, China's air travel market had exploded, second only to the US, giving it huge leverage. China began using market access as a tool, tilting orders toward Airbus and nurturing COMAC. The US-China trade war gave Beijing a reason to favor Europe, and in 2019, China ordered 300 Airbus jets. The 737 MAX crisis accelerated Boeing's troubles, with China grounding the plane and delaying its return. This kept Boeing's bestseller out of its top market, opening the door for rivals. The old Boeing-Airbus duopoly was breaking, and China was ready to fill the gap. In 2018, the US-China trade war marked a turning point for Boeing, shaking the very foundation of its global business. For years, China had been one of Boeing's most important and fastest-growing markets, with Chinese airlines placing massive orders for new jets. But as trade tensions escalated, the landscape shifted dramatically. Tariffs and political disputes quickly froze the flow of Chinese orders, leaving Boeing's sales pipeline in limbo. The uncertainty rippled through the entire aviation industry as both sides dug in and negotiations stalled. Meanwhile, Airbus seized the opportunity. The European manufacturer's sales soared as Chinese airlines shifted their business, not because Airbus had a better product, but because politics dictated the winners and losers. Boeing's sales flatlined, and the company found itself sidelined in a market it once dominated. The crisis deepened with the grounding of the 737 MAX. Chinese regulators were among the first to ground the plane after safety concerns, giving China even more leverage in negotiations, and forcing Chinese airlines to delay or cancel deliveries. As a result, hundreds of completed Boeing jets sat idle in storage lots across the US, unable to be delivered. This put immense strain on Boeing's finances, disrupted its supply chain, and left suppliers and workers in a state of uncertainty. Even as the Biden administration maintained a tough stance on China, the Chinese government doubled down, signing a massive deal for nearly 300 Airbus jets in 2022. This was a clear signal that China was willing to look elsewhere for its aviation needs. Boeing's leadership was forced to publicly acknowledge that the company was losing out in China, not because of any shortcomings in its aircraft, but because of the harsh realities of geopolitics and international power struggles. The once stable global aviation market had become a fierce battleground, with every order and negotiation shaped by political maneuvering and shifting alliances. Boeing's heavy dependence on the Chinese market, once seen as a strength, had now become a major vulnerability, exposing the company to risks beyond its control. The traditional duopoly between Boeing and Airbus was fractured, and Boeing's future in China, once a cornerstone of its growth strategy, was now deeply uncertain. In this new era, the rules of the game had changed, and Boeing was left scrambling to adapt to a world where politics, not just engineering, determined success. The biggest long-term threat to Boeing isn't Airbus, it's Comac. Comac's C919, designed to rival the 737 MAX, entered service in 2023, marking a new era. Though it still relies on Western tech, the C919 is a leap for China's aerospace ambitions. Beijing is ensuring its success, directing state airlines to buy hundreds, creating a captive market. Every C919 delivered means one less Boeing sold in China. While global certification is a challenge, China is playing the long game, aiming to export the C919 to friendly markets. The rise of Comac signals the end of the Western duopoly and a new three-way race. Boeing's troubles in China ripple through the entire U.S. aerospace supply chain. Thousands of suppliers, from giants like Spirit Aerosystems to small machine shops, depend on Boeing's production. Lost Chinese orders mean layoffs, cutbacks, and less investment in innovation. The impact is felt nationwide, threatening high-skill, high-wage jobs. Reduced revenue limits Boeing's ability to invest in new technology, risking America's edge in aerospace. The sector's decline weakens the broader U.S. economy and its industrial base. In 2020, Boeing announced massive job cuts, citing the MAX crisis and lost Chinese demand. The loss of China's market is more than a corporate problem, it's a national one. America's industrial strength is at stake. The Boeing-China saga mirrors a global power shift. The old belief that trade would liberalize China has faded. Instead, China has grown more assertive, using economic power to challenge the US-led order. Made in China 2025 is a blueprint for technological dominance, not just growth. Aerospace is now a strategic battleground, not just a business. By building Comac and favoring Airbus, China is breaking America's monopoly on critical technology. The US faces a competitor unconstrained by free market rules. Comac's mandate is strategic, not profit-driven. Boeing must answer to shareholders. Comac answers to the state. The playing field is no longer level. With China's market closed to Boeing, the company finds itself at a crossroads, forced to rapidly adapt to a new and challenging global landscape. Once a dominant player in the world's fastest-growing aviation market, Boeing now faces the reality of its jets sitting idle and production lines slowing down, as access to Chinese buyers remains blocked by ongoing geopolitical tensions and trade disputes. In response, Boeing is shifting its strategic focus toward emerging markets such as India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. The company is aggressively pursuing and landing major orders from airlines in these regions, hoping to offset the significant losses from China. These deals are not just about numbers. They represent Boeing's efforts to build new relationships and secure its future in a rapidly changing industry. Internally, Boeing is undergoing a major transformation. The company is overhauling its corporate culture and revamping its manufacturing processes with a renewed emphasis on restoring its once sterling reputation for quality and safety. Teams of engineers and workers are collaborating more closely, determined to prevent past mistakes and regain the trust of airlines and passengers worldwide. Despite these efforts, the road to recovery is expected to be slow and fraught with challenges. Boeing's future now hinges on its ability to navigate both the unpredictable world of international politics and the relentless demands of engineering excellence. The company finds itself caught in the middle, squeezed between Washington's political expectations and Beijing's strategic maneuvers. Every decision is scrutinized, and the stakes have never been higher. Boeing's top executives now act as diplomats as much as business leaders, lobbying both governments for support while working tirelessly to reassure global customers that Boeing remains a reliable partner in aviation. In the long term, Boeing must come to terms with a reduced presence in China and fundamentally rethink its business model. The company is analyzing global aviation trends and exploring new opportunities to remain competitive. To stay ahead, Boeing may need to accelerate the development of next-generation aircraft and deepen collaborations with allied aerospace partners. By innovating and working together, they hope to counter China's aggressive market tactics and maintain a technological edge. The path forward is filled with uncertainty, and the stakes for Boeing, its employees, and the broader aviation industry are enormous. Every decision made now will shape the company's destiny for years to come. Ultimately, Boeing's survival will depend on its ability to adapt, innovate, and embrace a new global reality, one where resilience and strategic vision are more important than ever before. Boeing's China story is a warning for the 21st century. The unraveling partnership signals a new era of fragmented, contentious global competition. The rise of COMAC and the weaponization of trade threaten not just Boeing, but the entire U.S. aerospace sector. The ripple effects endanger high-wage jobs and America's technological edge. The old duopoly is gone. The market is now a three-way race. Boeing faces challenges from both Airbus and a state-backed Chinese rival. The strategies that built Boeing's empire are no longer enough. As new aircraft fill Asian skies, the question remains, can Boeing's free market roots withstand a world where state power shapes the future of flight?